Hello ladies and gentlemen, CaptainShack here. It's time to dive back into Star Citizen. We finally had a bunch of new information drop about future gameplay and what we can expect in the upcoming 3.0 release, and well, beyond that. The latest 10 for the Chairman paints a really exciting picture of an incredibly immersive multiplayer sandbox. For me, it's not the incredibly detailed ships or the lore building in the universe that gets me excited for the title. It's what makes it special. How gameplay and immersion go hand in hand. Let's discuss. One question that's been tossed around here and there is, how will professions work? If, say, I want to be a freight hauler and I decide I love it. I want to be the best damn freight hauler there ever was, cue Pokemon theme.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
How does a goal like that take shape? How would you measure progress, and what would gameplay be like from day to day? What would an average run be like? And how is moving cargo exciting? I'm just gonna use cargo transporting as a single example of this, but you could extrapolate from this example how salvage would work, and I'll probably do a video on that at a later date. Okay, so you've decided the life of a space trucker is for you, in the style of Cowboy Bebop from the episode Heavy Metal Queen. I love that intro, that soundtrack is so good. Let's say you own a freelancer. It's a good hauler. It's small, not overly expensive. She's no Caterpillar or a Hull E. But for a single captain, maybe one crew member, moving small, high-valued goods is the way to go. She'll do just fine. Right, so from here, you can start hauling cargo in the verse. If the ship's got a bay for it, and the job's cargo will fit into the cargo bay, you can move it. But say you're really dedicated to cargo running. Now it's time to start building a reputation. Start working for the Merchants Guild or a cargo broker and get that level of trust with your employer. Start to get that to rise. Start making deliveries safely and on time. This will open up new and better jobs and more interesting jobs for you that pay better. When arriving at one of the big, well-known established ports, you can have the ground crews, possibly players, probably NPCs, unload your bay. Now, if you're using one of the big, large cargo ships, you're gonna want these automated systems working for you because that's just way too much for you to lug by yourself. If you're dropping off, let's say, gear to a backwater planet or a moon, say you're moving food to a mining outpost with only a handful of docks on it, then you're probably on your own. It's up to you and your crew to empty that freight by hand, or whatever loading and unloading equipment that happens to be on hand at the time. So what's an average run like in the verse? Well, based on answers from Chris Robert on 10 for the Chairman this weekend, by the way, this week was fantastic. He hammered a lot of the points that I'm gonna make here in that video, but it's like an hour long, so you've been warned. I highly recommend it though. All right, so based on that and lots of design posts and interviews, here's what we know. Your ship, like in any good sci-fi, when under a lot of use, starts to have wear and tear. Parts are gonna break and they have to be maintained. So say you're at a major, well-established port and you get a job. This one's high value, but isn't totally legit. Your contact meets you at the local bar and gives you the job details, much like we've seen in a past tech demo. You're running 2 small crates. Of what? You didn't ask. It's valuable, that's for sure, and needs to get where it's going. You and your co-pilot acquire the crates and physically lug them into the back of the freelancer. She's in okay shape. You had a scuffle with some would-be pirates on your last run while checking out an unknown wreck in the rings of some gas giant. You took a bit of damage on your left wing. Through the persistent system, that damage stays till it's fixed, and you haven't had the time to fix it yet. But you're jonesing to get back to safer territory and you want to meet up with some friends later. So you load up and you take off, without having time to fix or repair the ship. After getting away from the established port, you set course and blast into quantum travel. Now is the time to walk the ship. You're going a long way and you've got a few minutes free. You can check the cargo, do a little maintenance. Last thing you want is a breakdown that could have you stranded in less than pleasant part of the universe. While working on the ship's power plant, your co-pilot lets you know that the ship's coming out of quantum travel. There's something in the way and needs to recalculate the jump. By the time you get back to the bridge, you've got some sensor data coming in from the object. Whatever it is, it's giving off a decent level of energy. You've got some choices. Plot a safe course around and get moving again, or investigate. But why investigate? You're a cargo hauler, what could possibly interest you there? Well, whatever it is, it's probably valuable to somebody. It could be a damaged ship in need of aid, in which case you supply that aid and you could get paid. Maybe it's a micro black hole. It's valuable to the right scientist that wants to research it, player or even NPC. Maybe you stumble upon a new jump point that an explorer would love to travel down and figure out where it goes. Or maybe it's the location of a wrecked ship that a salvage crew would love to get that information on. The more data you gather, the more valuable it is that you can sell later on. Or maybe it's a trap, pirates waiting in ambush. Maybe it's a wreck some players have already found and they're in the middle of salvaging it, and they don't want anybody else to know where it's at, and that could be a threat to you. You can see how quickly a single energy reading has turned into almost endless number of fun possibilities. But for this example, let's say you're really interested in getting that cargo off your deck. It's burning a hole in your ship. So you have your friend plot a safe course around the signal, and you jump. Remember how I said that cargo wasn't exactly legal? Well, it's legal where you picked it up, but it's not at the receiving port. Not so much, at least. Well, now it's time for some fancy flying. You gotta keep your EM signature low so you can get through a few of the checkpoints unnoticed. And lastly, once you actually get down to the planet, avoiding all the police patrols, you've actually gotta move these physical boxes from your ship's cargo bay to a drop point. So you make a plan, set out at night, load up the crates into a small ground vehicle, and go running off into the desert. The desert can have its own environmental impacts. There could be a sandstorm or a dust storm. There could be hostile creatures on the planet. You don't know. And heck, if you even make it to the drop point, your contact might decide that 2 bullets are a lot cheaper than paying for the cargo's transport. Those are the risks you take when you're moving illegal cargo. Again, a simple act of moving 2 boxes of goods becomes an adventure that could go in all kinds of directions or totally sideways. The decisions that you make could affect everything. This kind of rolling narrative is what kind of hooked me on Star Citizen and all sandbox games that I've played since going all the way back to Ultima Online, Star Wars Galaxies, on and on. Star Citizen, though, is kind of building itself around it a bit better. With 3.0 coming out soon, allowing us to trade, fight, and move cargo, we're starting to see the ground system for what's, well, going to be the PU, the Persistent Universe. I'm pumped for it for sure. So for my example, I talked about these mechanics and I mentioned a bunch of stuff that was actually mentioned in 10 for the Chairman this week. The persistent system is one of those, which we've already seen an early version in 2.6 that keeps track of your missiles. Loading and unloading cargo was mentioned, demos of which we've already seen, and we got a direct question about it that made a big deal. One of the questions was, if you have one of these giant ships, how will automated loading and unloading work? Well, if you've got one of these giant hull E's, you're probably going to want the NPCs there at the station to unload it for you. So there's going to be automated systems for you that may take a little while, but a hell of a lot faster than you and your 3 buddies trying to load this stuff or unload this stuff, well, 1 crate at a time. Think of any major port in the United States. They've got those big cranes, they've already got ground crews there that are there for one reason: unload those goods and get them shipped where they need to be. That's how the ports are gonna work in Star Citizen. If you're flying a smaller ship, then maybe moving high-valued cargo is a better choice, and you can move it yourself, cutting out a little bit of the middlemen. Part of the fun could be taking one of these large cargo ships that's loaded down with gear, taking it to a port that doesn't have those automated systems, but bringing 5 or 10 of your buddies to help unload the thing so you can make maximum profit. Maybe that's going to be a strategy in the game. The way they've described it so far, I don't see why not. They're also talking about bringing in ship-based mining in 3.0. which is very exciting. It's gonna be the most bare bones version of it, but it's nice to see that it's coming out soon. I talked about, while in quantum travel, getting out of your ship and walking around, which is something that they just discussed in this 10 for the Chairman. Actually getting up, you've got a 5-minute flight from point A to point B, time to get out, move around. They've even talked about having a bit of autopilot in this episode, so if you've got a navigations officer, he can actually set certain points that he can fly to, so you can make your way around some of those bigger systems while you're off in the engineering bay repairing, whatever thruster is giving you trouble, keeping your ship maintained, which is going to be a big part of the game. They also talked about the Merchants Guild, or building up that kind of faction standing, or that loyalty with certain NPCs, unlocking more and more interesting missions as you go, and better paying ones. The moving of cargo was mentioned, with smaller items that might be high value but maybe a little bit more dangerous to move, or just small high value cargo like booze versus ore, diamonds versus giant water tanks. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking forward to seeing. It's gonna change the kind of runs that you make. Anyways, this is why I'm excited for Star Citizen. I recommend you check out that 10 for the Chairman. There's a lot of cool information in there. If you want to hear more about Star Citizen and what they're talking about, like the end product being, or what the news is recently, let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to make these videos because I just love talking about this game and where it's going and where kind of sci-fi sandbox games are going in general. It's a genre that I've always been passionate about. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more sci-fi, gaming, and modding goodness. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.